My girlfriend wanted an open relationship, so I watched her drift away, found comfort in her best friend, and took control of my own happiness. 3 years, 3 whole years of building something I thought would last forever, and she drops this bomb on me like it's what's for dinner tonight. We were sitting on our couch, the same one we picked out together at that furniture store where we spent 4 hours arguing about fabric colors, when she casually mentioned she'd been thinking about exploring other connections. Not breaking up, she emphasized, just opening things up a bit. The way she said it made my stomach drop to my shoes. There was this practiced quality to her words, like she'd rehearsed this conversation in her head a dozen times. Maybe she had. Maybe while I was working late shifts to save money for the ring I'd been secretly shopping for, she was planning how to tell me she wanted to sleep with other people. I sat there processing while she explained her reasoning. She talked about personal growth and not wanting to feel restricted and how love shouldn't be possessive. All these words that sounded like she'd pulled them straight from some relationship guru's blog post. The whole time, I kept thinking about how just last week she'd been talking about moving in together permanently, maybe getting a dog, all these future plans that suddenly felt like lies. But here's the thing about being caught completely off guard, you don't react the way you think you would. In my head, I always imagined I'd be the guy who'd fight for his relationship, who'd argue and demand explanations. Instead, I just nodded and said okay, just like that. Okay. She seemed surprised by how easily I agreed. Hell, I was surprised too. But what was I supposed to do? Beg her to want only me? Force her to stay committed when she clearly didn't want to be? The damage was already done the moment those words left her mouth. The rules were simple, she said. We could see other people, but we'd always come back to each other. We'd be honest about everything. No secrets, no lies. We'd make it work because we loved each other. I remember thinking how naive that sounded, but I nodded along anyway. The first few weeks were the worst kind of torture. She'd go out on dates and I'd sit home trying to distract myself with video games or work projects. She'd come back with this glow about her, this energy that used to be reserved for me, and tell me about her evening like we were best friends gossiping about crushes. The brutal honesty she insisted on felt more like emotional waterboarding. Meanwhile, I wasn't seeing anyone. The whole concept felt foreign and wrong. I tried to imagine being with someone else and it just felt like cheating, even though technically it wasn't anymore. So I became the guy sitting at home while his girlfriend explored her options, and I hated every second of it. Her best friend started coming around more during this time. She'd always been part of our social circle, but now she was showing up when my girlfriend wasn't even home just to check on me. At first, I thought she felt sorry for me, this pathetic guy whose girlfriend was out dating half the city. But there was something else in the way she looked at me, something I was too wrapped up in my own misery to notice at first. She'd bring coffee and we'd talk for hours about everything except the obvious elephant in the room. She was easy to talk to, had this way of listening that made you feel heard rather than judged. Slowly, I started looking forward to these visits more than I looked forward to my girlfriend coming home. The turning point came about 6 weeks into this arrangement. My girlfriend had been seeing this guy regularly, someone she'd met through a dating app. She'd stay out later and later, sometimes not coming home until the next morning. The space between us in bed felt like an ocean, and I'd lie there staring at the ceiling wondering how we'd gotten here. One night, her best friend showed up around 10 with a bottle of wine and red eyes. She'd just gotten out of her own long-term relationship, something that had been falling apart for months, but she'd been too scared to end it. We sat on my back porch talking about how relationships seem to have this expiration date nobody tells you about, how people change and grow apart and there's nothing you can do to stop it. That's when she told me she'd always thought my girlfriend was making a mistake, not just with the whole open relationship thing, but with how she was handling it, how she was treating me. She said I deserved better than being someone's safety net while they figured out what they really wanted. I'd been thinking the same thing for weeks, but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real, made it permission to feel angry instead of just sad. We finished the wine and she didn't go home that night. Nothing happened, not really. We just fell asleep on the couch watching old movies, her head on my shoulder. But when I woke up the next morning, I felt more at peace than I had in months. My girlfriend came home around noon that day, clearly having spent the night elsewhere. She found us in the kitchen making breakfast, laughing about some stupid joke, and something shifted in her expression. For the first time since this whole thing started, she looked uncomfortable, jealous even. She started asking questions. Why was her best friend here so early? Had she spent the night? Were we talking about her? The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who wanted an open relationship was suddenly concerned about boundaries. Over the next few weeks, her best friend and I started spending more time together. Not dating exactly, but definitely connecting in ways that had nothing to do with my relationship situation. She was smart and funny and didn't make me feel like I was competing for attention. She listened when I talked and remembered details from conversations we'd had weeks earlier. She made me remember what it felt like to be someone's priority. The more time I spent with her, the clearer it became that what I'd had with my girlfriend wasn't actually that great. I'd been so focused on the length of our relationship that I'd forgotten to pay attention to the quality. We'd been coasting for months, maybe even a year, going through the motions without really connecting. Meanwhile, my girlfriend's new relationship was getting serious. She'd started talking about this guy like he might be something long-term, which felt like a slap in the face. The whole point of opening things up was supposed to be exploration, not replacement shopping. The first real fight we had during this period was about her friend. My girlfriend accused me of using her to get back at her, of manipulating the situation to make her jealous. She said I was being vindictive and childish. The accusation stung because maybe there was some truth to it, but it also felt rich coming from someone who'd been parading her dating life in front of me for 2 months. That's when everything clicked into place. She didn't actually want an open relationship. She wanted permission to cheat while keeping me as a backup plan. She wanted to explore her options while knowing I'd be sitting at home waiting for her to come back. The open relationship was just a way to avoid the guilt of admitting she wanted out. But I wasn't the same person who nodded along to her proposal anymore. Spending time with her best friend had reminded me what mutual respect felt like, what it was like to be with someone who actually enjoyed my company rather than just tolerating it. The second plot twist hit me like a freight train a few days later. Her best friend confessed that she'd had feelings for me for over a year, long before the open relationship conversation, long before her own relationship ended. She'd been watching my girlfriend take me for granted and it had been eating at her. She felt guilty for the timing, for inserting herself into the situation when I was vulnerable, but she couldn't pretend anymore. This revelation flipped everything upside down. Suddenly, every conversation we'd had over the past few months took on new meaning. Every coffee she'd brought, every late-night talk, every moment of comfort she'd offered, it wasn't just friendship. It was someone who genuinely cared about me, trying to show me I deserved better. The guilt was overwhelming at first. I felt like I'd been emotionally cheating, even though my girlfriend had literally given me permission to see other people. But that's when I realized how messed up the whole situation had become. I was feeling guilty for developing feelings for someone who treated me well, while my girlfriend was out there building a whole separate relationship with zero regard for how it affected me. I started seeing things clearly for the first time in months. My girlfriend had checked out of our relationship long before she suggested opening it up. She'd probably been interested in this other guy already and just wanted a guilt-free way to pursue him. The open relationship wasn't about growth or exploration, it was about having her cake and eating it too. The confrontation was inevitable. I told her I knew what she was really doing, that the open relationship was just a coward's way of breaking up with me. She tried to deny it at first, but when I pressed her, the truth came tumbling out. She'd been unhappy for months but didn't know how to end things. She thought maybe seeing other people would help her figure out what she wanted. What she'd figured out was that she wanted him, not me. But she was too comfortable with our setup to actually leave. She liked having someone to come home to when her dates didn't work out, someone to split bills with, someone to make her feel less alone when the excitement of new relationships wore off. The conversation was brutal but necessary. We both admitted the relationship had been over for longer than either of us had been willing to acknowledge. The open relationship hadn't saved anything, it had just delayed the inevitable while making both of us miserable in different ways. But here's where the third twist comes in, and it's one I never saw coming. After my girlfriend moved out to be with her new guy, her best friend and I tried to make things work between us. The foundation was there, we had genuine feelings, shared interests, easy conversation, but the timing was all wrong. I realized I'd been using her as an emotional crutch while my relationship was falling apart. She'd been there for me during the worst period of my life, and I'd mistaken gratitude and rebound feelings for something deeper. She deserved more than being someone's consolation prize, even if that's not how I meant it. The hardest decision I made was stepping back from both relationships. I needed time to figure out who I was when I wasn't defined by being someone's boyfriend. I'd gone straight from one serious relationship into emotional entanglement with her best friend without ever stopping to process what had happened or what I actually wanted. So I took that time. I focused on myself for the first time in years. I started doing things I'd put off during my relationship, took art classes, went on solo trips, reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I learned to enjoy my own company again, something I'd forgotten how to do. The funny thing about taking control of your own happiness is that you stop needing other people to provide it for you. I stopped checking my ex's social media to see how happy she looked with her new guy. I stopped feeling guilty about how things ended with her best friend. I stopped defining my worth based on whether someone else wanted to be with me. About 6 months after everything fell apart, my ex reached out. Her relationship with the other guy had ended badly. She was sorry about how things went down between us, sorry for stringing me along, sorry for not being honest from the beginning. She wondered if we could try again, maybe do things right this time. The old me would have probably considered it. The guy who nodded along to the open relationship proposal might have seen this as a second chance. But the person I'd become during those months of self-discovery had different priorities. I thanked her for the apology but declined the offer, not out of spite or lingering hurt, but because I'd learned what I actually wanted in a relationship. I wanted someone who chose me first, not someone who needed to explore other options to realize what they had. I wanted partnership, not convenience. Her best friend and I eventually talked too. We acknowledged that our timing had been off, but that the connection between us had been real. We agreed to stay friends, and weirdly enough, it worked. Without the pressure of trying to be together or the guilt about the circumstances, we could appreciate each other for who we were. The final twist in this whole story is that taking control of my own happiness didn't lead to some fairy tale ending with the perfect person. It led to something better: contentment with myself and clarity about what I wanted. When I eventually did start dating again, it was from a place of choice rather than need. I met someone about a year later who was nothing like either of my previous situations. She was direct about what she wanted, honest about her feelings, and never made me guess where I stood. We built something together from the ground up, without the baggage of trying to fix what was broken or recreate what we'd lost. Looking back, I'm almost grateful for how everything played out. The open relationship disaster taught me that love isn't about holding on to someone who doesn't want to be held. It's about finding someone who chooses you every day, just like you choose them. My ex's best friend taught me that emotional connection matters more than history or convenience. She showed me what it felt like to be valued for who I was rather than what I provided. And the time I spent alone taught me the most important lesson of all: that my happiness is my responsibility. Not my partner's, not my family's, not society's. Mine. The whole experience changed how I approach relationships now. I don't ignore red flags hoping they'll resolve themselves. I don't compromise my core values to keep someone who's already got one foot out the door. I don't mistake comfort for compatibility or history for love. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do when someone wants to explore other options is to let them go explore. Not as a manipulation tactic or a way to make them jealous, but as a genuine release. If they come back, you'll know it's because they chose to. If they don't, you'll know you dodged a bullet. The last I heard, my ex had moved to another state with yet another guy she'd met online. Her best friend started her own business and seems genuinely happy for the first time since I've known her. And me? I'm exactly where I need to be, with someone who never made me question whether I was enough. Sometimes the best plot twist in your story is realizing you were the main character all along, not just a supporting player in someone else's drama. Taking control of your own happiness isn't selfish, it's necessary. And sometimes it's the only way to find the love story you actually deserve.